Hey, everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Well, we're here again with Chandra, with Aaron and Franklin, and let's talk about it was the storm surge wasn't as high. Let's start
Right.
off with that because people don't realize what rushing water and waves crashing against a house can do.
That's right. So one of the biggest things is that you just really need to know what your risks are. And, there's always, of course, the rain, but one of the big ones is the storm surge. And that's one of the things that we try really hard to design for because we can design for the wind pretty easily and work with clips and straps and shear walls. But the piles have to be designed um, to a certain design criteria where when they start hitting that crashing wave, the rushing water, debris impacts, floating, the buoyancy and everything, when it starts getting all those forces on it, you have to be able to have all that be taken by the piles, and that's one of the really critical elements in our area. Um, so, like I said, the storm surge for Ike was really high. It was about 16 feet, and most of the base floods on the peninsula ranged between about 14 and 18 feet. So we have a lot of structures that were below that before Ike, and they got completely knocked down.
And
So, especially in the Gilchrist area,
a lot of old telephone
yeah.
poles too.
Right, they were really low too. I mean, a lot of people that were building back after Ike, they had homes that were, 8, 9 feet off the ground, and they were going at 14, 15 feet off the ground to get above the flood elevation. And so it made a big difference in one, how the house felt when they were in it, because it
Hmm.
still is going to move a little bit. But it also was, a lot more stairs to climb. But it got the house up over that flood elevation, which was really the critical element. Because, like I said, we can design for the wind part. It's just that flood element, and then some of those unknowns, like, are we going to get a tornado? Are we going to have really high rip currents in certain areas that are going to really put some extra load on some piles, or push debris into the house or something? So those are some of the main things that were differences. And you really just never know when we're going to get something. I mean, we may go to sleep tonight, wake up, and there's something ready to pop up and hit us in 2 days. So you just kind of have to stay in a state of preparedness this time of year.
When we have a storm, whether it's here and y'all have offices all the way into Florida, when we have a storm, do y'all go in and say, okay, we had a 10-foot or an 8-foot storm surge on this one? And do y'all look at the damage and study it to see what you can do to better it? I know, like during Ike, we had a lot of undermining where the water rushed under
Mhm.
the house, ate away from the pilings, and then a house on telephone poles floated by and crashed into it. Do y'all learn and use some of that information going in to building houses and what you need to do?
Yeah, we're really lucky. So right after Hurricane Ike, we actually had a team, a mitigation team from FEMA that came in and met with us, my dad and myself, and they wanted us to take them to certain houses so that they could see damages, and so they actually wrote an assessment report, and they did that exact thing. They did that evaluation. So we were kind of like the boots on the ground, and we took those teams out there to see what that stuff really looked like and how it performed, and then that helps us make better engineering decisions, better code decisions as we move forward with design. It helps us make better decisions on what performs well and what doesn't, because everything works with the math, right? But when you get it into real world, you have to take a lot of other factors into account. So it just really helps to be able to see those failures, see why things fail, and see if we can mitigate those for future events.
How much did you? What's one of the storms that y'all have learned more than anything from? Was Ike a big learning curve for y'all, or was it Katrina and Rita?
Well, Katrina and Rita, like Katrina was, you're
It
not
was
going to
more of a
learn.
flood event,
It was
wasn't it?
more of a flood event, and a lot of it was because of the levees and everything. Now, it was a huge storm, and it did push a lot of water in, but it was more about the flooding and the damages from the flooding. So it was hard to really assess. There were so many that were just complete, what they call slab claims, total losses. You really couldn't really evaluate, was that wind or water or what things kind of contributed to that. And there were still quite a few of those in Ike as well. But Ike, because it was in our backyard, we were able to really get involved in a lot of the damage assessments. And actually, last year after Hurricane Ian in Florida, I spent about 2.5 months in Florida doing damage assessments to see how things performed, why things did well or not well. And that was a really high wind storm, but it was also a big storm surge flood as well. So it kind of mimicked Ike in those ways. And it in a lot of the things that we saw, a lot of the damages that we saw in Fort Myers Beach and in Sanibel Island, those were the same types of damage models that we saw during Hurricane Ike, because the structures, a lot of them were older, lower, not up to flood code, didn't have deep piles, really didn't
Hmm.
have great maintenance maybe. So we saw a lot of the same things happen. And I actually brought out a lot of my younger engineers because I'm like, you're never going to learn this kind of thing sitting in an office. You have to
Right.
go out and look at it. You have to see how things fail. You have to see what does well. And then it helps you make better engineering judgments as you move forward in your design.
If people want to get hold of you to talk about maybe your strong home inspection program, or they're looking at building a home because y'all design homes, you do the engineering on them. What's the best way for them to get hold of you?
Well, you can always you can either call our main office in Texas City, which is 409-935-5200, or you can just go on our website at aranfranklin.com. It's ARAN Franklin.com.
Cool. Well, that's great. Well, we'll be back here in a week or so with another show with Chandra on TWIA on home inspections. In fact, I think I'm going to corner her to go in depth into the strong home inspection program. What makes a home a strong home inspection? Because and I want to talk about this too. The discount for insurance is unbelievable, and it's actually worth doing it depending on the size of your home, from what I've heard. And so we'll dive into that. Chandra, thanks for joining us
Yes.
today. We're going to head on out. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye bye.